My name is Judith and this is Game On's Lesson 5 on land use. The very first thing we need to know on this topic is what exactly do we refer to when speaking about land use. Land use has, as you might expect, humans at its core. Thus, we also talk about human activities, such as agricultural, residential, industrial, mining, or recreational practices. We use the land aiming for human development. Nevertheless, when this development is not well planned, it has deep impacts on the environment, our health, and wildlife. So, what are the main problems? Firstly, we have erosion and degradation. Each year, about 75 billion tons of soil are eroded from the land, a rate that is about 13 to 40 times as fast as the natural rate of erosion. With erosion and degradation, we reduce the humus content of soils, humification processes, and more. These are serious problems because soil creating processes are very slow, and thus erosion and degradation lead to the need of artificial nutrient input. Another problem is intensive farming. Intensive agriculture is the most typical method of soil cultivation and the key source of food worldwide. It relies on reaping high yields with an extreme land exploitation approach. Moreover, it usually comes in the form of monoculture, the cultivation of one single crop. If you have ever paid attention to the sites while traveling through the countryside, you might have noticed extensive monocultural agriculture. Hectares and hectares of land devoted often solely to one single crop. For ecosystem biodiversity purposes and needs, as seen in our previous lesson, these are also very bad news. Next, we have overgrazing. Overgrazing happens when too much livestock grazes for too long a period in the same area, rendering the land unable to recover its vegetation. Needless to say, when we overgraze, we are exceeding the carrying capacity of a pasture. Deforestation, a big word we hear all the time. According to the Food and Agricultural Organization, the FAO, the expansion of agriculture caused nearly 80% of global deforestation. Among the many problems that deforestation comes with, the most important impacts are on biodiversity and the disappearance of carbon sinks. Those are not the only impacts though. For instance, agricultural activities and the construction of impervious surfaces, such as roads, parking lots and other structures, can cause 1. The contamination of non-point source water, which is when the pollution limits the capacity of soils to filter the runoff. 2. The reduction of water quality, which is when the pollution affects peak flows and water volume and increases stormwater runoff. 3. The reduction of air quality, which happens when the constructed surfaces lead to so-called heat islands in urban and suburban areas. And 4. An increased risk of wildfires due to the dry conditions created by the pollutants in the soil. On human health, inadequate land use can cause a number of illnesses. For instance, vector-borne diseases can occur when vectors, think of mosquitoes, ticks or fleas, become infected and transmit the infections to humans. Breathing disorders often happen due to reduced air quality. And skin diseases and cancer can also be an outcome of the contamination of the soils, water and air. Last but not least, the negative effects on wildlife. In a nutshell, as land use increases, so does land pollution and soil erosion. These can result in, first of all, the reduction of the quality or even loss of wildlife habitats, this furthermore increasing the risk of extinction. And secondly, an increase in health risks to livestock because of the spread of invasive species or due to the use of agricultural chemicals. All in all, agriculture is at the center of activities that we need to pay attention to. It is a tricky one without a doubt. Without expansion control and planning, it increases the loss of biodiversity as well as the acidification of the oceans due to poor water management. At the same time, we cannot live without it. No agriculture, no food. Therefore, we need solutions. For instance, crop rotation, which is the practice of growing a variety of different crops on the same plot in sequenced seasons. This comes in place of monoculture. The main aim behind crop rotation is maintaining the health of the soil so as not to use artificial fertilizers, herbicides and pesticides in a bid to repair the soil and keep pests at bay. Another solution is the use of cover crops, which serve to fertilize the soil and offer shade. This approach also helps protect the soil from erosion, contributes to a better soil structure, increases the organic contents and nutrients in the soil, and improves the water holding capacity of soils. Yet another option is no-till farming. No-till farming addresses the reduction or avoidance of tillage to grow crops without disturbing the soil arrangement. No-till farming goes together with using cover crops. It is beneficial for soil structure and nutrient cycling. We also have integrated pest management. This approach involves solving pest problems with minimal use of chemical pesticides. Integrated pest management is based on the perspective that, first of all, insects are not always pests. Secondly, management strategies should be consistent with ecological processes. These management strategies are meant to avoid detrimental effects on non-target species and ecosystem services. Multiple tactics should be employed to minimize insect adaptation to any single tactic. Renewable energy use is yet another approach. For instance, think of a solar-powered irrigation system. Agroforestry is the practice of growing crops on the same land units where forests exist. With agroforestry, we can improve the production capacity of soils, we can preserve natural resources, and we can reduce the atmospheric concentration of carbon dioxide. The key in agroforestry is that the tree cover needs to be understood and managed as part of the landscape, harmonizing agricultural and forestry policies. Another solution is sustainable or green agriculture. With sustainable agriculture, we can control the impact on the cultivated environment by minimizing the external contributions, diversifying the plantations, and using biological treatments. We can take the good practices of traditional farming knowledge to achieve sustainability. For example, by having orchards alternating with vegetable farms, or by choosing crops that are suitable for a certain area. Moreover, sustainable agriculture comes with soil protection measures on as much arable land as possible. It also comprises the use of organic manure or compost, decreases the use of chemical pesticides, and invites us to think on water management, a topic we will tackle in the next lesson. Let's also consider sustainable forest management. This helps prevent soil erosion and water pollution, among others. With sustainable forest management, we not only support biodiversity, but also help remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Moreover, we can intercept precipitation and slow down surface runoff, as well as ensure the ecosystem services are not affected. Finally, the protected lands approach. What is a protected land? A clearly defined geographical space that is managed through legal or other means to achieve long-term conservation of nature with associated natural and cultural resources. Here you can find national parks, wilderness areas, community conserved areas, nature reserves, etc. Protected lands are the pillar that sustains biodiversity conservation. Moreover, they contribute to people's livelihoods, provide ecosystem services, store carbon, and help mitigate and adapt to climate change.